What's up guys, long time no see. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have my friend Lynn with us. We're actually chilling at her new apartment in LA. Fun fact, we used to be roommates back in undergrad for a year, and now we're both practicing attorneys in Los Angeles. So I thought it would be really nice to have her on our channel and share our experience with you. So Lynn, do you want to do a introduction?
Yeah, so I'm Lynn. I grew up in Potomac, Maryland, right outside DC. Grew up in a very real estate centered family, which brought me to Cornell Hotel School, which is where I met Mei Mei. And we were roommates for 1 year. I knew I was very interested in real estate, so that's what drove me to want to become a commercial real estate attorney. I spent one summer in San Diego and immediately fell in love with California, so I knew I wanted to end up here, and now got the opportunity, so I'm here in LA with Mei Mei.
Yay. So how do we become roommates to begin with?
So it was a random selection. We got paired. Originally I was supposed to be in a room with, I think, 5 other girls. And then they switched it last minute, yeah.
In College Town? Or?
Yeah. No, on North Campus, which is way off campus. But then they switched me last minute, and I got assigned to our room together.
Yeah, I remember filling out a survey, how noisy are you?
Yeah.
How social are you? And that kind of stuff. They use that information to help you pair with another student. And remember when I first got matched with you, we actually talked to each other on that online portal.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your first impression of me when I first arrived? Because at the time I took 3 connecting flights.
Oh wow.
From Guangzhou to LA, LA to Philly, Philly to Ithaca on my own. Wow. I had 2 50-pound suitcases.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I ever been to the US. So it was a brand new experience for me. Yeah. What was your first impression of me?
First impression, I definitely thought you were, just a hard worker and a nerd.
Yeah.
I didn't expect us to our relationship to flourish into such a friendship. I thought you were down, head in the books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what it was going to be, just a roommate situation. Mm-hmm. And then I found out you were really cool. What was your first impression of me?
I just remember you were very outgoing and friendly. Really? Even when we were typing on that online portal thingy, I just remember you're very definitely very outgoing. I had a pretty good feeling going into the roommate situation. Also we share a tiny little room.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought that we would have some sort of barrier, but it was just 2 wide open 2 beds in one room,
staring at each other while we sleep. Because the university that I went to before I transferred, there was a kind of connecting wall. Right. But it worked out. I don't think we had any issues. I think our schedules were kind of in sync to a certain extent.
Oh, actually, I think they matched us also because we were both transfer students.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, we kind of had a connection early on because we have a similar experience. We were both pretty nervous about starting a new life at Cornell.
And especially at, Cornell specifically, I think any kind of Ivy League school, there's this competitive nature, so you want to prove yourself.
In the beginning, when we first met, do you think my English was really bad? And also do we have any cultural barriers or any difficulty in communicating with each other?
So I thought your English was great. I didn't think that there was any barrier. I think it was one time when you were, not one time, maybe a couple times, where we were in the room together and I think you were on the phone. And how am I going to describe this? And there was one term that you used, and I thought that you were saying the N-word, but it really was, how do you say it?
那个.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was oh, she's really, she must be talking to her friend, or her parents must be really laid back.
Okay. But it's everything else is in full-blown Chinese with the specific phrase in it. Okay, so this is something that I would like to explain.
Please.
那个 or 那个 is literally a filler word. Yeah, basically it's a filler word like that or or like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the literal translation is like that.
I think that also translates in English too. I
think my written English is pretty good, but like communication-wise, I don't think I had a lot of cultural understanding of American culture. But I think even then, I know the N-word is no. To this day, I think it's something that I don't feel comfortable saying.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Because I think a lot of people have different experience, different preferences. Some people think that, oh, if we're really close, we can use that word. But at the same time, I'm like, it's not up to me to decide on whether and I just don't feel comfortable using that word, period.
I mean, I'm like a little bit more like laid back, maybe that's the term. I mean, I agree, like if people are like close enough, then whatever. I think it's all about like, everything's about context, right? Yeah. Like you N-words, like, yeah, it's not gonna fly, but like.
Oh, for example, if I sing along a rap song with the word in it, what do I do?
That's fine. I mean, I know some people honestly would be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right. I personally don't care. Okay. It's part of the song. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely know people, like even some of my friends that are like, if the person's not black, it's like a hard no.
So out of caution, maybe just don't say it.
Yeah, like roll the windows up, you know?
Yeah. I remember one of the cultural differences I've experienced is like one night I was putting on this sheet mask. And that was like something that I do a lot when I was in college with my like Chinese friends. Yeah. So it's like just our beauty routine. I think the first time you saw me do that, you were like, baby, what were you doing? Yeah. Because it's like literally like a sheet mask with like my eyes and like mouth cut out. Yeah. So was that something like that looks funny to you?
Yeah, I guess my beauty routine wasn't on point, but like, because now when I see people do that, like I've even gotten stuff like that before, right? So like, I think I just didn't know much about like personal care.
But I think like at the time it wasn't as popular in the US. Yeah. I think like with like K-beauty being more and more popular. Yeah. It's more of a norm now. Like
if not the she mask, then like mud or like any kind of like clay mask. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Were there any like like super American things that I did that you were like, whoa, wait, like no, what are you doing?
I can't think of anything.
Well, the eyelashes, right? Because that was like the first time, and then I was like sitting there putting on eyelashes. I feel like you told me that before, maybe not.
I think it's either the hair extension.
Definitely. Because I just started doing those, right, like that year. And they were like clip-ons too. It wasn't even the real deal.
Before coming to the US, I didn't experience different hair texture. Yeah. Like, I just didn't know that the spectrum is like that huge, right? China is a pretty homogenous society, so like we have similar skin tone. Like the difference is just not that big.
Right. And I'm coming with these like long clip-in extensions, probably leaving hair everywhere. Yeah. I guess all cultures maybe do that, but I would say definitely like in the Black African American culture, extensions are huge.
I think what I really like about our like housing situation is that we have different majors. Like basically our lives would not have crossed paths at all without the housing situation. So I think it's a really nice break from just like hanging out exclusively with your group of friends from your major. Yeah. And a natural way to meet new people and share your experience. Lynn, since we're such good roommates, what make us part ways? Like after a year, like why do we decide to part ways?
So I pledged a sorority and ended up moving into the sorority house for my junior year. Yeah, for my junior year.
How long did you stay there? Like 2 years?
Just 1 year. I'd had enough after 1 year. Yeah, Greek life was good. I mean, it seemed like at Cornell there was like at least like a divide between like Greek life and everyone else, it seemed like. So like if you weren't in Greek life, then there wasn't really much of like a house party scene. It was either bars or mixers.
Yeah, because, okay, to give everyone more context, like Ithaca, where Cornell is at, is like a college town. Yeah. Because basically everyone is like a college student or a professor there, right? So there's nothing much going on other than the bars located on campus
Yeah.
and the house parties. So I think I didn't join a sorority, so my life was pretty academic centric.
We went to a couple
we
bars
went to
together.
Yeah.
But what did you do outside?
I transferred to Cornell as a junior, so I feel
Yeah.
like I didn't have as much time
Yeah.
to develop like a community. Like if
Yeah.
I had one more year, I think I would definitely join maybe an a cappella group or something that's more like interest based.
You can sing.
A little bit.
Wow.
I was in the choir when I was young, but yeah. Yeah, so maybe something along those lines. And I think sorority is a great way to meet new people. I just think it's also pretty time consuming, I would say, right?
100%. Yeah.
When you were pledging, I think that was definitely, like, I saw.
Yeah, pledging, and then also after you finish pledging and you're part of the sorority, it's like, you know, there's not mandatory mixers, but like pretty much, you know, you have to show up for all of those, or at least like most of them. And then you also like prepare for like the other people that are coming in and pledging.
Right.
So it's like, it definitely is like pretty time consuming.
At the time, a lot of people said among the three things: studying, socializing, and sleep. You can only pick two out of the three.
Yeah.
What did you pick out of the three?
Now, or what was it then?
At the time. Yeah, at the time.
Wait, say them again.
Sleep,
Yep.
studying, and socializing.
Studying and socializing.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Studying and sleep, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, when did you know you wanted to study? Because you're 1 year ahead of me.
Yeah.
So at what point did you know that you wanted to go to law school?
After I met you.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even think about the possibility of going to law school before. Like at the time, I think I was pretty confused. Like I majored in bioengineering, so I know that I like engineering, but I don't see myself doing that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was kind of like venturing out, thinking of alternative careers. And I think I went to like a career advisor and told her about the challenges that I've encountered. And I was just trying to explore different options. And she mentioned that, oh, actually, if you have an engineering background, patent law may be something that you would be interested in. And I think at the time, like you knew very early on that you wanted to go to law school. I think that also sparked my interest in like pursuing law as a potential career.
I think everyone, before they go to law school, right, when you're thinking of going to law school, I'm pretty sure at that time I was like, definitely go to law school. It'll be a great thing. And after going to law school, now you're like, think about it.
Yeah, definitely. Your mom is also an attorney.
Yeah.
So maybe for you, it's something that's always been in the back of your mind, right? Like, oh, it's a proven success story.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I remember vividly that when I went to the career advisor, she also mentioned that, oh, law school can be very expensive.
Yeah.
It's very hard, 3-year program, and the job prospect may not be as good as you think.
Right.
Like that's what she warned me about. And I think at the time I had no idea. I just thought, oh, it's fine. I'll power through, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm a hard worker. I can do it. I didn't understand to the extent of how hard law school is until I'm actually in it. And I definitely caution my friends who are interested in going to law school. Like, think like not twice, but like
4 times.
4 times
Yeah.
before. And also, I think maybe I would recommend them to like even get some internship opportunities, like working at a law firm and see if you actually like it before spending so much time and money.
But I don't even know if that gives you a full picture, because even, you know, the summer, you know, associate positions, you know, where you're working in the summers, that really doesn't give you, right, the full spectrum of like what you're gonna, you know, the hours you're gonna be working, you know, the level of like stress that you're under as an attorney. So
well, but at least it gives you a peek, right? You can get a sense of what it's like. It's not all glamorous and like it's not what those TV shows tell you. None of us take any time off between undergrad and law school, so we kind of just power through. And Lynn, where did you go to law school? Did you mention
Columbia Law School? I don't think I mentioned that. I was in New York City, which was I never thought I'd be in New York. I never wanted to be in the city. Like my first impressions of New York City was like, it's dirty, you know, it's likely gonna smell. And I went, I mean, I liked it because of the people that I met in law school, and like also I transferred law school, so there was kind of that same tight-knit transfer group. So that was fun, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy to be in California.
So when did you know that you want to practice in California? And
Always. Before law school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, going through the OCI process, I split between California-based firms and New York, and it's really hard to break into California unless you have ties. And they'll ask you, you know, like, who do you know? Do you have family? And I'll say like, well, I've spent like a month, and they're like, okay, well, that's great. What else?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel like most people can probably adapt, but it just ended up that I liked, you know, my prior firm and the people I interviewed with. So I was like, okay, I'll just stay here. But I knew. Did you know that you wanted to?
That's another thing that I had no idea about before even going to law school. Like, I literally just went down the list of the ranking.
Yeah.
And applied to like the top like 20 schools.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's see what sticks, and I'll just go wherever. Like the best possible school that I can get into. So I had no geographic preference, but now I realize it's actually something that you should consider early on. Like, where do you see yourself practicing in the long run? Yeah. And if you are a foreigner like me, you will probably prefer New York or California.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah.
And because it's harder to break into a different legal market unless you are at the very top schools.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, people say like top 20, but to be honest, I feel like it's really like top 14 or to where you can kind of like switch between like New York, Chicago.
For example, I feel like a Fordham grad will have a better chance in New York City than me. Do you think so? Maybe?
I don't think so, because I mean, UCLA is really good. And I think Fordham's ranks like much lower than UCLA, right?
But I see a lot of Fordham grad at Big Law in New York City.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, right. But I think just some people don't. People that have been to UCLA know better. Like, they're not going to New York. But I don't know. I mean, there are a lot, like at my prior firm, there was a lot of Fordham grads.
That's another thing. Like, if your credential is not as strong as you want to be, maybe you could kind of do like a trade-off. Like go to a slightly lower ranking school, but in a local market where you want to target. So so that you have a better chance.
And then once you get into like the big law door, then you're kind of like good to go to switch to like another, or like switch internally with the same firm to, you know, your desired city. Oh, I mean, I think the reason I switched, right, like actually switched firms, like I think there is a difference between like working at a firm's satellite office versus working at the firm's main office.
Definitely.
Like my prior firm had an LA office, but it was, you know, the real estate group there was 5 people. You know, you're not going to get the amount of work, the kinds of deals you want to get if you're working in a much smaller group. Whereas if you switch to a firm with a bigger group, and that's also their headquarter base, I mean, I think there's something to be said about that, and gives you a little bit more opportunity.
How difficult would you say was the experience of relocating? Because I think this is probably a kind of like transition period, like right with the pandemic and everything. Interviewing has become easier in general, because now the firms don't need to fly you out to the office. So it has definitely opened up more doors if you decide to lateral to a different geographic area. Did the firms give you a hard time about bar situation? Like,
no, I mean, I was kind of surprised at how the bar really wasn't in any of the conversations, except for one after I got the offer.
Okay.
You know, one person mentioned it, one attorney mentioned it kind of in passing, like, oh, you're gonna have to take the California bar. But no, like the bar wasn't really the issue. It was more of like, okay, who do you know in California? You know, will you be able to have like a smooth transition so you don't come here and then immediately leave? Right. Was, I think, their biggest concern. I do agree that like with everything being so, you know, everything being remote now, it was much easier because you can't really explain to your current job like, hey, I'm actually flying to California. I'll talk to you guys like You know what I mean? And like take that time. Whereas like if you're, you can take an easy, quick break, put on your, professional clothes and do the interview. My interview process was pretty quick compared to like, some people that I've heard that were interviewing, and like how many weeks they had to interview. But I would say, yeah, everything being remote made it much easier.
I don't think my undergrad prepared me that well for law school because I was an engineering student. I think the engineering courses were very different from law school courses. The emphasis is more on like the problem solving skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, like more math.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas in law school, there's a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and legal analysis.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I wasn't very good at.
Yeah.
In the beginning. What about you?
Yeah.
Do you think your undergrad courses prepare you?
Not at all. I mean, even though I would say like I took like real estate law. Like there was like some classes like that in the hotel school. And yeah, you read cases. They kind of like tried to explain IRAC, but it's like different if you're doing, one case or two cases. It's just one of your classes versus taking 5 classes where you're doing that.
Yeah.
And like the amount of reading.
It's like 200 pages per class per day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how do you even begin?
Yeah, it's unsustainable.
Yeah, and in the beginning you're like, I don't know what's important, what's not. I think that's something that you learn later on to read strategically and to like highlight and important stuff.
I don't think I ever got that. I still read like every word.
Really?
Yeah, I know people that like skimmed through the reading and like surprisingly those people still made it through class and did well in the exams. But I was sure like if I did that, I would miss something.
But are you able to finish everything? Like I wasn't able to finish the reading if I read from beginning to end.
I just the first year was just like basically being in prison. I was like in my room the whole time, reading all day, all night, not going to like any of like the 1L things.
I think 1L year was brutal, no matter what. Because I know people who did poli-sci or did English literature.
Wow.
Had trouble in their 1L year. So it's not something that just comes natural to anyone. Even if you have a solid reading skills and writing skills, it's still challenging because it's a different type.
And I think it's hard for everyone to do well. I mean, I don't know what the curve was like at UCLA.
Like a B minus or like a C plus.
Yeah, they make it really hard for you to do well. So like in order for you to get to the top of the class, like you really have to
The culture was a little bit, very competitive. Like back in undergrad, I think a lot of our coursework were team project based, right? Like everyone's pretty collaborative. Whereas in 1L year specifically, because everyone is competing with each other, no one is there to help you almost. I think not that many people are willing to share their outlines, even though maybe it can benefit the both of you, right? Like not that many people are willing to share. And so it's kind of, sometimes it feels like you're in a black box by yourself.
Well, I mean, this never happened with me or anyone in my school, but I don't know where I heard it, but I heard stories of people like giving people incorrect outlines and like doing like little sabotagey stuff like that.
I've heard about like stealing people's outlines.
Yeah,
don't do that.
It is very competitive.
Yeah. But did you study with somebody else?
I started out with like a study group, like a small study group, but even those, like I found, I don't know, I feel like I work like, when it comes to studying, we're better alone, because I feel like even for like the bar, somebody would be like, oh no, the answer is this. And in my mind, I'm like, no, the answer is this. Right? So like, I don't like when I have like other people's like thoughts kind of like clouding my thing. Did you?
I didn't. I think I tried it out in the beginning, but then I realized that I didn't have enough time for my own to study. I think later on in 2L year and 3L year, I usually study with like 1 or 2 friends. Build the outline together. I think that's a pretty efficient way of studying. But no. A piece of advice that I would give to like law school students is to definitely a lot more time than you think you need in preparing for the exams.
Yeah.
Because like it's another skill. Like you need to type so fast.
Yeah.
You have no idea, right? Like a lot of the time the exams are open booked.
Yeah.
Right? Open booked.
Yeah.
So you can bring in your outline and the textbooks, but you would not have time.
Yeah, exactly.
To skim through your textbook.
Right.
Like literally you'll be typing.
Yeah.
Like most of the time.
Yeah, open book is like a trap because like there's no way you're gonna have time to like find, page 1,500.
No way. And I find that the open book exams are more difficult because the professors think you have something to refer to.
Right. Yeah.
So the range is always broader. Definitely practice your typing too.
I mean, I think my methods of how I communicate with people changed after like law school 1 and working 2, kind of like what you said. So like, I feel like before in undergrad, if somebody didn't respond to me or something like that, I'd be like a bit uptight or upset about it. Like, why are they not responding? But like, now I don't respond. Right? And so when people don't respond, I automatically assume it's because, they're working or all of that. Now that like, I'm in a position where I'm like super busy all the time with work, I think that kind of changed.
Yeah, for sure. I think from my experience, because I relocate like every 2 years basically, right? Like since undergrad, I think I have to adapt quickly to the new environment. So sometimes I drop my old friendship.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the longer you're apart, the less you have in common.
Right.
But I think in my mind, it's like we don't have to talk every single day.
Yeah.
But if the opportunities present that we can reunite at some point, then I'll be down to, kind of rekindle the friendship. Yeah, I have a pretty small circle of friends that I talk on a regular basis. And for us, we didn't talk every single day.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, at least during law school, I don't think we talked that much.
Yeah.
But when you came over to San Diego for your internship, for example, that's when we hung out.
Yeah. I mean, I keep like a smaller circle as well.
Yeah.
So like the people that aren't here, right? It's only like 2 or 3 people at most that I say I'll talk to like every single day.
Do we want to talk about dating or no? Dating as attorneys.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
Okay, the juicy part of the conversation. Dating as an attorney.
Yeah.
So what's the dating scene like in New York? Let's start it off with that.
Okay. Trash. Wait, do it again.
What's the dating scene like in New York?
New York, it's, I don't know, I guess like, I don't know a way to describe it besides like all over the place. I mean, I know it's corny to say that New York is the city that never sleeps, but it really is the city that never sleeps. And there is like a lot of, investment bankers that work crazy hours. So like the dates will be later, but like not a lot of people are looking to settle down in New York is one thing I noticed. Even like if they're, 30 or, 35. They're still looking to like just date, but I feel like that's the best way I can describe it.
Okay, so what's the main ways to meet new people? Is it through dating apps?
Dating apps,
without
a doubt. Dating apps are huge in New York, and I feel like they're kind of also pretty big in California. Yeah. Unless it's like meeting somebody through a friend.
Right.
There's like a lot of like that, but I would say mostly through dating apps. And I mean, there's like specific ones for specific things. Like Hinge is more relationship-y app. Like Bumble is more of a just dating app casually.
Okay, is it?
Yeah.
I thought Bumble is also pretty serious. No? Okay.
Not in New York. And Tinder, we won't even discuss it. Yeah.
We don't use it.
Yeah.
Coffee meets bagels. Probably more serious also.
More serious, but like the pool there is not so great. What's the dating scene been like in... I mean, I can tell you what what was it like pre-Lynn coming to California?
Pretty challenging.
Okay.
I think it's just there's less young professionals in LA, I feel like, compared to New York. Right? There are way more artists people in the entertainment industry. And also it's a very transient city, right? People come and go.
Yeah.
So yeah, same. Not that many people are looking to settle down
Yeah.
in LA.
Yeah.
And also I feel like as an attorney, you do have a busier schedule
Yeah.
than most, and you're more career driven. So a lot of times that might be an issue.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Even in New York when I was dating other, male attorneys, you'd think somebody with the same schedule would be kind of understanding, when you're working late, if you, can't catch up for dinner. But I've found that even attorneys don't understand your time constraints.
Actually, I think attorneys tend to avoid dating other attorneys. That's
Yeah.
what I noticed. Lynn, what do you like to do when you're free? Like, what's your hobbies?
I would definitely say, as generic as it sounds, working out, going to like group fitness classes, and before I don't even know if I told you this, before I moved, I was actually like training for a half, which kind of got put on pause.
Have you finished a half before?
Yeah, I did one half
That's crazy.
2 years ago, and was in great shape. It was in Brooklyn.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Great way to work out, great way to stay in shape.
That's crazy.
But super hard. But the group fitness classes, like the berries that we went to the other day, I like to do those.
Well, I can definitely attest to that because like even back in the good old Cornell days, I remember we doing the Insanity
Oh my gosh.
workouts in our dorm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was intense.
Insanity's ridiculous. Like the jumps.
Yeah, that hurt our knees. I feel
Yeah.
like, right? Like,
Super intense workout.
but yeah.
I still do that sometimes, like nowadays, yeah. Yeah, and music. Like before COVID, like the pandemic, I would go to I went to Ultra for a couple years at the music festival in Miami. And New York had like a very good live music scene. So like there was always like a concert going on.
Any recommendations in terms of like artists or like genre in general?
Oh man, I mean there's so many to choose
Because
from.
you always have really great music.
I mean, it really does depend on your taste. Like, who am I listening to right now? Yeah. Girl in Red is really good. She's like a more low-key artist, but she's really, really good, and it's like starting to get pretty big. Chelsea Cutler is like always a fan favorite. I'm trying to think who else I played for you.
I'm gonna link the artist down in the description box.
Who do you like listening to? I feel like we always play my music.
Yeah, I feel like my taste is pretty just generic. Just pretty like pop music.
You like Harry Styles?
Not really.
You knew almost all the words to Adore.
It's just that I think I like his style
100%.
as a person more than his music.
He's got great style.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
what about Drake? Yes.
Love him. Yes. Yes. And you know what? I downplay him a lot because he's like way too pretty. So I automatically want to be like, no.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie. Every one of his songs
Yeah.
is a hit.
Yeah. I like
Even like unknown songs. I'll have to show you one of the songs that I found like recently that's like his old song. So good. Lyrics are a little like basic, but.
Okay, so what about The Weeknd? Because we talked about this.
Oh my gosh.
We talked about this.
The Weeknd is a hard now.
Really?
Hard now.
Okay.
Way overplayed.
Tell us why.
It's just way overplayed. Like I mean, maybe it's because he's so hype, and I've seen him live.
Me too.
Yeah. So like, didn't think he was that great live.
To be honest, I have to agree. His live performance wasn't that great. But he does have a very dreamy voice. I don't know if it's the auto-tune or let's think of some other pop artist.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish.
Love Billie Eilish. Love Billie Eilish. I thought she was also overplayed.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I listened to a couple of her songs and like they're dark, but they're pretty good.
And also like her live performance is pretty good.
Oh, you saw her live?
Yeah, at Coachella. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, she seems like a performer.
What about her outfits? Ugly or trendy or stylish?
You know, she's hiding her figure on purpose.
I think
don't
she's
know.
like trying to open up more to like the more sexy looks. Cause
I saw the cover.
Yeah.
But I think they might have like touched that up. I think she is a thicker woman, and she got like a lot of stuff for that. Like I saw like something in
The wine mom memes.
The what?
People call her wine moms.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think
had no idea.
she was wearing like a boxy t-shirt.
Yeah.
She's pretty like
Yeah.
busty. So
Yeah.
it does make her look a little bit thicker than she actually is. Yeah, she got called wine moms.
Wow, that's crazy.
A
Well, I mean, like
18-year-old. But that's just like, I feel like people's expectation
Well, yeah. Even
was
like
way too much.
like Megan Thee Stallion loosened it a bit. You know what I mean? But still, yeah. The expectation is to be like, you know, pencil thin.
Kim K figure. Like that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know how many BBL and like liposuction you have. Because it's
Super
just
dangerous too.
Not realistic on
Yeah.
one single person.
Yeah.
No, either you are naturally more slim or naturally more curvy.
Yeah.
Pick or choose, but
Yeah.
it's hard to be both at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's like still the model super thin, which is like what people want, or right, the Kim K. I mean, I think that, the BBL thing is huge right now. Every other TikTok is, you know, somebody's life journey on like getting their, you know, going with their best friend to get the BBL. Yeah.
Thanks, Lynn, for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Such a fun episode. I hope you guys enjoy it and find it useful. If you're thinking about applying to law school or if you're in law school, comment down below if you have anything to share. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.